I buy a Hyundai Santa Cruz again? And is it a huge gamble to buy it in the first place? Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Robmotive MT. So I've been thinking about this, would I buy the Hyundai Santa Cruz again? And was it really that big of a risk to buy it to begin with? Well, first of all, I've had it for a few months now. I have been away from it from a little bit, as you can see, but I am heading back to it soon, and I gotta say, I do miss it. I can't wait to get back home, pull it down off the lift, clean it up. It was honestly quite dirty before I left, and then take it out for a ride. But would I buy it again? Well, the answer to that is absolutely. It has exceeded my expectations. To be honest, before I got it, and it wouldn't really have affected my decision. Obviously, it didn't because I bought it. But I was a little bit leery. It was a different looking kind of vehicle. Would I be happy driving around in it? And honestly, would I be self-conscious driving around in it? Because it is different. That does factor in, unfortunately, a little bit for me. Doesn't bother me a whole lot, but it's still in the back of my mind. Gotta say, never really bothered me at all, even with the attention I get. And I do get a lot of attention driving it, whether it's people talking to me in parking lots, at the gas station, asking about it, what is it, or just people looking at it driving down the street. It's definitely a head turner, probably because of the way that it looks, I'm sure, and that it's a brand new vehicle out there. There aren't many on the road where I live, so when you see them, they're unique, kind of like driving a Lamborghini down the street. That's right, I'm comparing the Hyundai Santa Cruz to a Lamborghini as far as its uniqueness goes. Now, was it a big risk to buy one? The golden rule is never buy a first-year vehicle, either a brand new first-year vehicle or a remodel vehicle, like we have coming with the Toyota Tacoma soon. And the reason for that, I think, is pretty obvious. It's really untested. And I know the manufacturers, they do a ton of testing. You've seen those wind tunnels with smoke where they're blowing stuff over them. Some of them take them to harsher environments, deserts or cold areas or mountainous areas or whatever, to do all of their testing on them. But let's be honest, until it's in the hands of the consumers, they can't test for everything that you and I do to them. Overloading them with weight, flooring them from stoplights, all the crazy stuff that we do with them. So it is a bit of a risk, even though they are pretty severely tested, I think. So why did I do it? And I gotta say, I've done it before. I've bought other first model or production year vehicles, and I've never had any that have really given me any kind of trouble. And that's the same for the Hyundai Santa Cruz. Like I said, I've had it for a few months now, and I haven't had any issues with it. The biggest issue, I shouldn't say I haven't had any. There's one slight small issue, and that was connectivity with my phone. Other people have talked about this. Early on, I did have an issue with that. My phone didn't connect. Who knows? Maybe that was a hiccup with the phone itself. Probably more likely the fact that I have a new iPhone, and at the time the Santa Cruz was built, obviously it wouldn't have the most up-to-date software in it to be able to mesh well with that brand new iPhone. So I think that's kind of expected. I did do the software update on it. It's one that came out not too long ago. There is a video on the channel, by the way, if you want to search that out as to how it's done. Maybe that took care of the problem. I don't know, but I really haven't had any issues with it since. It's been spot on and it's been fine. As far as anything else, as I mentioned, I've had no problems with it. And I've got to say, the fit and finish of it has been pretty much spot on. I always go over the vehicle with a pretty picky eye, looking at gaps and the way things fit and the materials and all that good stuff. And I haven't really seen anything wrong with the Santa Cruz. One thing I do want to mention, not with the Santa Cruz, I had a Toyota Tundra. And that truck, after a while, and not too long of sitting out in the heat and the sun in deep South Texas, the tweeter covers started to come up a little bit. It's almost like the plastic started to curl. It was getting too hot. They shouldn't do that. That's something that I would think in testing they would know or come across. I also had the issue years ago on a Ram Rebel. You know, on the sides, they had these little badges. And those badges, after a while, would do the same thing. They kind of started to warp, kind of peel out or pop out a little bit. Again, it came from the heat, both sitting outside and the heat from the engine. You would think they would test that. It's obviously sitting on top of an engine. There's going to be some heat in the hood. Who knows? Might have even come from the cold. When I had that truck, I was in Ohio, and you know, one day it might be 80 degrees and the next day it might be 30 or 40 degrees. So huge temperature swings. Fuel economy wise, I've been pretty impressed. 24 to 26 miles per gallon. That's awesome for anything that you can attach the word truck to. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, it's not a truck. It's just an SUV with a bed. Well, that may be true, but in my opinion, if it can tow and it can haul, it's a truck. So 24 to 26 miles per gallon is awesome. I love that. Of course, I've talked at length about the power of it. 0 to 60 in less than 6 seconds. I love that. I like off-the-line acceleration. Doesn't mean I'm drag racing everybody, but I could if I wanted to. And I bet you a lot of people out there would be surprised at just how quick that thing is. It's awesome. From a handling standpoint, it's spot on. It really does drive like an SUV, which, let's be honest, it's based on an SUV. But it does drive that way as well. It corners well, it turns well, it steers well. You know, I went on a trip recently to Connecticut, and we rented a GMC Terrain. Really nice vehicle for a long distance trip, I must admit. But there were a couple of things that I noticed as I'm kind of comparing that to the vehicles that I have, the Santa Cruz, because the Santa Cruz is really the most like that we have as far as being an SUV type vehicle. The two things that I noticed, one, the brakes were very sensitive. Got in that thing, backed it out of the parking space where it was waiting for us, hit the brakes. I thought I just tapped them. And it was one of these kind of things because they were very, very sensitive. The steering. And this is, I think there's a reason for this, but the steering felt a little bit loosey-goosey. Now, this GMC Terrain had about 58,000 miles on it or so. So it had been driven some, and this is a rental car. But I think the real reason is because it had that lane departure feature. So when you started to get over towards the lines, it would give you a little bit of a jerk or a feel. It wouldn't correct it for you, but it would remind you, and it would beep too, that you were getting near the line. To me, that made the steering feel a little bit loose. I don't think it really was. I think it was just that feature. Just another reason why I don't like those features. One other thing I want to mention, I'm not trying to turn this into a GMC Terrain video, but it had auto stop. No way to turn it off that I could see. Maybe there is. Again, it was a rental. I didn't get that intimate with it. But it was probably the best auto stop system that I've ever had. For a while, I wondered if it even had it. It was just almost seamless when it would function. So kudos to GMC, and I'm sure it's even better now. That was a couple model years older. Anyway, leave a comment. Let me know if you've got a Santa Cruz. Do you regret buying it? Are you happy with it? And did you see any risk in buying a first production model year vehicle? I'd be curious to know. Also, real quick, I do have 2 additional channels. Rob Motive, all about Toyota Tacomas, and Rob Motive JT, all about the Jeep Gladiator. Check them out, and if you're interested, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.